Let's start recording. All right, fantastic. And I will admit all.
Damn.
In the meeting, we have admit all. Hi there. I'm Juha Hovintalo, and I will be your host for the next hour or so, moderating this discussion on studying abroad in the EU, UK, or the US. Please bear with me for about a minute because I will be letting people in. We have quite a bit of people signed up for the webinar, so it takes some time for everyone to join. We'll aim to start at around 2 past. At around 2 past. In the meantime, I can briefly introduce myself, though probably I will do that again at some point during this webinar. I'm the head of Team Finland at Project Access, and I studied history in the UK. And what else? I am from Oulu. So if anyone is from Oulu in this call, please spam the chat, and with some of that great Oulu representation. Okay, fantastic. I think we can start at this point. All right, thanks a million for joining the webinar. I'll very briefly introduce Project Access, and then very briefly let our panelists introduce themselves, a wonderful panel of 3 people, and then introduce the boot camp as a concept, which for many of you is probably a kind of a new thing. And then we'll have the panel discussion on a ton of very interesting things. So I'm super excited. Super excited for the next hour. Alrighty. Project Access is a nonprofit originally started by a bunch of Danish students in the UK, which has subsequently expanded into many countries, including Finland, starting from 2016. And basically, what PA does is that we have a mentor pool of about 50 mentors around the world in top universities around the world, in primarily at this stage in the UK and the US. And what we do is that we match applicants with a mentor for their application process. So instead of you having to Google all the answers and not really knowing what to do, because for example, no one in your school has ever applied to your target school, whether it's a school in the US, a school in the UK, etc., you will be matched with a mentor who will be guiding you through that process. And what really makes us exceptional is that we are we're completely a volunteer-based organization. So every single mentor is a volunteer, and anything that we provide to mentees, to our applicants, is completely free. So that is something that is good to keep in mind. A few things about the practicalities of this webinar after this very brief introduction of PA. The panel will last until roughly 20 to 4, so 15:40, and after that there's going to be a Q&A session. But please don't hesitate to shoot your questions in the chat. You can ask questions in both English and in Finnish. As you've noticed, the webinar will be in English to make it more accessible to a larger group of people. But as I said, the target group is fully composed of Finnish students. And yeah, so if you have questions, shoot them in the chat even before the Q&A session. and then we'll have a discussion on your questions after the panel. And I think I'm going to give the stage to our wonderful speakers today. Let's go in the order of them being featured on this very pretty slide. So Sara, do you wanna introduce yourself?
Happy to. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful Easter holiday. I'm definitely on the cottage moon, so sorry about that. My name is Sara Kemppainen. I'm a 24-year-old and I study at University College of Leiden University, so in the Netherlands, The Hague. And I'm happy to be able to share some of the insights of applying, but also studying in the continent of Europe. So happy to chat about that. And yeah, I'm head of program at Slash, which what I'm most recently doing. You're muted, Juha.
Juha,
oh,
I think
no.
you're muted.
And
he's
ignoring us completely.
Yeah. Yes, I
cool.
was on mute. Classic. Well, whatever I was saying is irrelevant anyway. So Rosanna, do you wanna introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Rosanna. As that slide says, I'm a first-year student at Harvard right now. Well, I'm doing remote. My background is Charles Liver in Boston. And yeah, that slides tell pretty much everything about me that is relevant. And yeah, happy to. I also apply to the UK and Ireland to university, so I know a lot different application systems for university. So yeah, happy to talk about that. And of course, Harvard, yay, and US.
Alrighty, how about Tuukka?
Yeah, hey guys, my name is Tuukka. I'm from originally from Oulu, but I'm currently studying at the University of Warwick in the UK. Well, actually, I'm not. Okay, I can't see what's shared on the screen right now, but that also explains most of what I do in my daily life. But I can definitely answer any questions about studying science. I think that's kind of my cup of tea, doing this kind of very multidisciplinary degree that combines applied mathematics with economics, and I also do a little bit of computer science on the side, so I can help with that as well. But yeah, I'm excited for the webinar, so I guess let's just get straight onto it.
Yeah, let's jump into it. And yeah, Tuukka, the slide said that you're interested in U.S. politics and coding, so I guess that sums it up pretty well.
Yes, that's about it. Yes. Although, yeah.
Alrighty, yeah. I'm gonna pause my my screen share. I think what we planned to talk a little bit about the boot camp. I'm gonna send you an info package on the boot camp. So because in order for us to have a fuller discussion, let's skip the boot camp phase at this point, and then I'll shoot everybody an email and you can ask me extra questions. So for time reasons, we'll be skipping that. Alrighty. All right. Let's get to it. So Sara, if we think about the first sort of question that came into mind when I was planning the webinar, I think we need to kind of start with like first things first. One is in high school and they are thinking about where they want to study, and they might get this wild idea of like, hey, why shouldn't I study abroad? So how did you decide to apply to the Netherlands? What was the process behind that?
That's a really great question. Well, maybe as a kind of a back information, I was already studying in Italy, so I had a scholarship to be in high school called the United World Colleges. So I was in Italy studying. And honestly, it felt quite a natural continuation to keep on being abroad. I really loved being in Italy. And then I didn't have a specific school in Italy, so I was kind of looking into continental Europe. Also due to the fact that I had to finance my studies. Obviously, I had support from the Finnish government, but by myself in that way, I had to be also very cautious of kind of like the financial burden that I could bring to myself. So to me, when I was younger, and I don't think I trusted myself enough to be able to get enough grants or scholarships, I didn't really look into UK or US as much as maybe later on I would have wanted to. So I looked more into continental Europe. I had spoken German, so I was looking into Germany, and then I looked into Netherlands, where I had been visiting a few times. One aspect that also really affected my decisions that I wanted to go to liberal arts. So it was basically you either go to US, maybe UK, or Netherlands. Netherlands had really good liberal arts colleges. So that's kind of what made me think of going to Netherlands in the first place.
Can you very briefly, in a one sentence, elaborate what the hell liberal arts is?
Yeah, that's a great. So liberal arts means that you're not studying only one specific subject. So I guess our UK representative can tell a little bit more about that, but often that means that you study one specific subject very intensely, while liberal arts is more you're able to do some from the sciences, some from maybe the humanities, and anything in between. I always been super interested in many things, and I had a hard time choosing after high school what kind of specific subject I would want to study. So I wanted to still do some mathematics. I still wanted to do some sciences, but I was also really interested to focus on governance and economics and development. So that's why I ended up in the Netherlands. So yeah, liberal arts is for those who maybe don't know what they want to do or want a more broader study.
All right, fantastic. And I think the discussion on liberal arts lets us segue very nicely to what Rosanna does, because I suppose that is what you do for at least the 2 first years of your degree at Harvard. So you can talk a little bit about liberal arts, but can you sort of backtrack a little bit and sort of, you're in your second year of high school or something, and you're thinking about where to study. What kind of an insect had to bite you so you're like, I'm going to Harvard?
Yeah, so yeah, liberal arts is that the first year we do kind of everything. We have this general education requirements, and so we declare the major in second year, like fall. So, but anyway, yeah. So what happened to me that I knew from middle school or something that I want to study abroad. I was Scotland, University of Edinburgh was on my dream school for years for some reason. And then in my high school, we had this course, American Studies, where we've studied American culture and stuff. And then at the end of the course, we went to New York for a week. And then there we visited Columbia. And up until that point, I thought like, yeah, I'm not going to apply to US. Mostly it's very expensive, what people think. But then the presentation there, the current students tour at Columbia, and then they talk about the financial aid, that basically if you can't afford it, it's free. And it's not only the tuition is free, but then the living costs there on campus and food and board there are free if you can't afford it, or at least very affordable. So then that was like, I could try. There's no harm in trying. And then I tried to apply. That was, the American Studies was my second year of high school. And then my senior year, I was then grinding hard so that I could apply to Columbia, Yale, and Harvard. And then, yes, I am here now.
Thanks a million, Rosanna. How about Tuukka? How was the journey for you?
Yeah, so I think I just want to, before I go into that, I want to emphasize what Rosanna just said. She said it's more than free to study in the United States for these certain colleges. So I want to this is because this is the biggest myth about studying abroad that I can ever hear, is that always US is so expensive. So listen to what she said and take that into consideration when you're thinking about applying. But yeah, I applied to study in the UK. I think I always wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to go abroad because I've always visioned myself as someone who kind of wants to create an international career. So I think the kind of a natural stepping stone is if you go abroad, it's much easier to kind of stay there after that. And I think UK is a natural choice if you want to kind of stay close enough to home that you're not you can fly back if you want to. And I think also for me specifically, I did know that for me the subject choice would be something sciencey. So although I have a kind of a wide range of different courses that I can choose, and I can study very widely within my kind of chosen tube of knowledge, I really go very deep into it. So I can do very, very, very advanced mathematics in a bachelor's degree. So I think that's something that I'm not going to say Harvard doesn't offer that, because I also know the Harvard's math degree, for example, is super, super good. But I think for someone in general, if you're considering applying, why to apply to the UK, is that you really get to focus on a certain thing, and if you're certain of what you want to study, which is kind of the case for many people who are thinking between abroad and, say, Finland, for example. It's kind of a little bit more similar to the Finnish system, where you study a certain degree program. So yeah, I think that's mainly the thing. And also, I think what blocked me from applying to the US was that myth. I thought it was going to be super expensive. Also, I'm not sure I was kind of well-rounded enough, or at least I didn't believe that I would be able to write a good essay of myself. I think I spent a little bit too much time playing video games in my high school days to have interesting enough hobbies. Although I do know that those even video games can be the kind of inspiration for a good essay, I'm sure. But at that point, I didn't have the self-confidence to go for those schools. But looking back, I should have at least tried.
Thanks a million, Tuukka. And let's tackle like the next step with a kind of a two-folded question, because I think it would provide a bit of context for our attendees who are probably contemplating between studying abroad and studying in Finland. So let me sort of put my patriotic hat on. And of course, even though I'm a bit of a hypocrite myself in that sense, because I also studied in the UK, but hey, what is wrong with Finland? Happiest country in the world. What is wrong with Finland? Probably nothing was wrong, but what really prompted you to sort of to not study in Finland, explicitly study abroad? And after that, I think we could, I'm gonna ask an extra question, but we could go into the practicalities of the application process. But Sara, why the Netherlands and not Finland?
I think first off, there's nothing bad about studying in Finland. Finland has great education, so I don't think we should see it in that way. In a way, I think what really prompted me to go or continue being abroad was the fact that I was already learning everything in English, and I felt quite like comfortable after IB to leave. I don't know. I always had this like since I was really young that I felt like being in Finland was too easy, and I kind of wanted the challenge and being in discomfort, which is being abroad, because it's not always easy and you have to kind of make do by yourself. And yeah, so to me, it was more of a challenge. I wanted to keep on learning. I wanted to use English. I did want to have also an international career. So I guess that was what prompted me really to be abroad instead of in Finland. But yeah, I would also like to say what Tuukka and Rosanna said. I also had a misconception when I was younger that I couldn't afford to go to US or UK, which is totally not true. And I wanted to highlight that I also don't agree in that anymore. But then I thought it wasn't plausible for me.
Thanks, Sara. How about for you, Rosanna?
Yeah, I get it. There's nothing wrong with Finland. I guess also, yeah, I think a big reason was that I wanted to study in English. As far as I'm concerned, the undergraduate degrees in Finland are usually in Finnish. So sorry,
Rosanna, to interrupt you. You did your high school degree in Finnish, right?
Yeah, until Harvard, I did everything like national stuff, Finnish, everything. I didn't go to IB or anything. So yeah, I wanted to study in English because I just like the language. There's something to it. And then another, I just guess, when I was a child, my family didn't travel much. So I was also thinking that, well, that would also be if I study abroad and live abroad, that can kind of be some experience. So yeah, I guess the experience and just thinking of the global world in general. I think it's a very general reason for many, I guess, that international experience is very, I think, appreciated and valued with a lot of work things and so whatsoever. But yeah, for me, it was the experience and English language mainly.
All right, that was very much the same for me because I did national high school diplomas. Really wanted to study in English. But Tuukka, what is your take? Can we get a very brief take, and then we're going to get into the practicalities. The practicalities of how you actually apply. There's Mikaela has asked a question on that, so let's pivot into that direction.
So I mean, personally, I don't think I can add too much to it. Although, like in general, it's just that you get a completely different experience from Finland, even though there are kind of degree programs in English. To continue on what Rosanna said, it's completely different to study with people from all around the world. So, for example, that's the case with me. I can basically point to any European country and some Asian countries, or even people from the States that I'm studying with, and I can say, probably crash on their sofa if I'm traveling. I think that's something that you don't really get in Finland. You can probably like get people from different regions within, but you don't really get that opportunity to kind of get a view of what the world is from other people's eyes. And I think that's kind of a unique experience when you're waking up and having your morning coffee with someone from Poland, and you're discussing what's the political situation there, or you're getting Snapchats from the Hong Kong protest from your friend who lives there or something like. Okay, that's very politically specific kind of things, but like these are very interesting stuff that you get by studying abroad.
All right, thanks a million, Tuukka. And Sara, okay, you've decided that you want to study in the Netherlands. What exactly do you need to do in order to get from your own personal decision of studying in the Netherlands to actually studying in the Netherlands? Can you just give all the practical steps, tests, everything, all that jazz?
It's been a while, so if I get something wrong, please do excuse me, because I applied in 2017 or 2016, so it's been a little bit of a while. Well, for Netherlands, I think for me, I had the advantage for going to IB, so I had already been in international school. I know someone asked, well, whether you have to submit an SATs or kind of one of those language tests. I didn't have to because I was exempted from that, but I guess that would have been part of it. I think the process in itself is pretty straightforward. I mean, you go to their website, you hit the apply button, and they tell you what you need to submit. So in that sense, I don't know if it's like really necessary for me to go too much in depth, but there's usually some essays. You have to obviously include your grades, what you've been doing during your high school years. And I feel like for the continental Europe, the application process is pretty brief, because I have also applied to US later on for my master's. So I feel like for European and like for continental Europe, the application is pretty brief, and you only have to submit, I think, like your diploma and your grades, like a formal documentation, maybe some references, but that's not always required for different schools.
Thanks a million, Sara. And Rosanna, I think usually my perception is that out of the sort of the three countries that we have represented now, the US has the heaviest or documentation heaviest application system in terms of just how much stuff you need to provide. And also there's a kind of a perception that, you need to be an absolutely exceptional genius in terms of extracurriculars, saving rhinos from extinction in Africa. Did you do any of that? And can you please walk us through the process in terms of standardized testing, grades, references, everything related to that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this also answers to some of the questions in the chat. So yeah, again, I went to national. I didn't go to IB, just normal Finnish high school, and my grades were not. I would say the matriculation exams were my best grades. So the grades from the courses were kind of average, I guess. So then, what I did was that, I graduated and then I applied during my gap year. And then...
Sorry, can you please elaborate, if it's okay, on two questions? Did you apply with already a finished matriculation diploma? And yes. So you were, okay. And can you give us some sort of an indication of the academic level of where you were? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to get a question on that.
Yeah, so I got, well, again, my matriculation exams were the best. It was like 6 Laudators and 1 Eximia. So that was and where was I? Yeah, so then I had my gap year, and during that I did all the SATs and everything. So what I had to do was, the SAT, which I'm not exactly sure. People have asked me a lot, like, what's the deal with it now? Because I think with COVID, the SAT this year wasn't required, and I'm not sure what to answer to that, like whether to take it or not. But when back in my day in 2019, it was still required. So were the SAT subject tests, a couple of them for international students. So I did them. But I didn't even get very good scores out of those. So it was definitely not the top. I feel like when you Google, like, what do you need? Then it's like, oh, perfect SAT scores. Mine were almost below average. So I can say that it's it's not really like what grades you need or what scores you need. It's not really, it's again, just the application. Then you need to, I think for Harvard alone, you need to write 2 full 1 or 2 page essays. So you need to write a lot of essays and different questions and all the extracurricular. So it's not really like, is this grade good enough? Is this grade good enough? Because it's very much about who you are as a person and what the grade tells about you as in a bigger picture. It's a very difficult process in the sense that there's no hard like yes or no, or can I get in with this or can I get in with that? So all you can kind of do is try, and there's luck with it as well, unfortunately, because the acceptance rate is very low, like below 5%. So definitely, even if you're perfect, I think the amount of people who apply with perfect grades each year, they could fill like 2 classes with only those people. So then it's really much about, yeah, you can try, and then they can see what kind of people they want to kind of have a nice class of very, what's the word? Kind of, yeah, well-rounded. So again, like a person doesn't need to be well-rounded. You can be good at something, and your grade in physics doesn't have to be great if you can show that you're good at photography or whatever you're interested in. So yeah, it's a difficult question in the sense it's very wide and broad, and there's no one size fits all kind of answer to this.
Can you elaborate a little bit on your essays? Because I know that you have very, very interesting extracurriculars, but at the same time, they're also not that, you ran for president at age 17. So like people sometimes have, and I might have had these like completely unrealistic expectations of what, admitted Harvard students do in their free time. So what exactly did you do for extracurriculars?
Yeah, so in high school, yeah, I almost nothing. It was so funny because I thought, okay, I do Irish dancing on this like beginner intermediate level, so definitely not good. If I go to an Irish dance competition, I do like average there. I thought still like Irish dance is cool, but actually when I got into Harvard, there's a guy in my class who's like was competing Irish dancing in world championship, so I don't feel that cool anymore about my Irish dancing. But that was my main, that I was just doing this hobby. I wasn't school president, or didn't any politics or any. Honestly, my extracurriculars were horrible. But the fact was only because of my family situation. What happened to be that I have a disabled brother, which has then shaped my life a lot, and that's what I wrote my Harvard essay about. And I got good comments on that from the admissions officer when I got to see my file, that they were something like, yeah, it's one of the most touching I've read this year. And that's like, you don't have to be president. You don't have to do anything that your resume looks cool. My high school resume looked very below average, boring. But then if you can kind of sell yourself and what you happen to have in a good way, if you can write a good essay about what boring stuff you have, you can still do good with that.
Alrighty. Thank you very much, Rosanna. And I think that was a very elaborate and sort of an eye-opening answer. Tuukka, how about you? Can you elaborate on the practicalities of applying to the UK?
Yeah,
what
so
forms
definitely.
people need to fill, etc.
I think the UK is quite simple, at least compared to the US, in a sense that what you need to do is fill in this kind of standardized UCAS form, which requires you to write a personal statement, which I think is like 4,000 characters and 47 lines worth of text, which fills up quite quickly if you really try to write about your whole life. And then you need to also get a academic reference from one of your teachers. So the way I went by that was basically I just contacted my physics teacher and math teacher, who had basically just had the most amount of courses with, and so they knew basically how to. Well, they knew my academic standard. They gave me predictions for my grades, which kind of in the UK, one of the main things is that when you're applying to colleges, you really need to focus on seeing, because the kind of the schools actually do quite clearly state what's the kind of minimum requirement that they require for Finns, and then and for, well, in general, and then what you get is basically. If you pass those, or at least get predictions over those, then they'll consider references and personal statement. And my personal statement basically what consisted of talking. So I originally actually applied for economics. That's a consideration, and then I switched basically after I got the offer. But what I wrote in my my personal statement was basically purely about why I'm interested in studying the art of economics, and then art, well, science, whatever. It can be both. And then how I did that was kind of talking about how I became interested in it. Then I actually had two books. One is by Björn Wahlroos and one is by Joseph Stiglitz, which are kind of on the complete opposite sides of the kind of political spectrum, but are both kind of economists, and they have kind of different ideas on the same things within economics. And I kind of talked about the conflict and how that makes economics very interesting to me, that you can have people with very kind of fleshed out ideologies and kind of arguments for why things should be in a certain way, say in government, but they can kind of end up in different, these kind of different conclusions, and that makes the study of economics, the solving of that conflict, kind of one of the most interesting things for me. And yeah, so I think that went pretty well. I think, as a shameless plug, if you're kind of interested in getting help for the essays or the personal statement, Project Access has kind of a wide range of materials on our website, but also if you apply to be a part of our bootcamp, you can get free mentorship for kind of writing those. So yeah. And then, after sending out my UCAS application with the reference and my personal statement and my predicted grades, then I kind of waited for responses from the universities that I applied to. And then I guess around March or February time, I think I got my decisions, and then I just accepted them and then waited for my matriculation exam results, because all the offers that you get from the UK are also always conditional on the results that you get. So if you make them, you get the offer, and if you don't, then bad luck. Yeah.
Alrighty, and now that you settled on the decision to apply to certain countries, how did you choose the universities which were sort of most relevant to you? Sara, how was it like for you? Did you just apply to Leiden, or did you apply to several Dutch universities, and how did that process play out? And what advice would you have to high schoolers, after having studied at a university, like, how one ought to choose a university?
That's a great question. In a way, I feel like you don't know until you go. I feel like that's kind of the thing. But I applied to two university colleges, one in Utrecht and one in Leiden. I think thing that I'm really grateful of studying at Leiden University, but actually in The Hague, with Hague is like more of an international city. It's called International City of Peace and Justice, which means there's a lot of international organizations. And one thing that I don't think students think about, but I actually came to be one of the most important parts of being at The Hague and at Leiden University, was the fact that I was living in a city where there's a lot of international work. So during my 3 years of studying, I'm someone who really enjoys doing so. I was the type of person who had crazy extracurriculars in high school, and I loved like organizing stuff, and I loved working, and I loved doing projects. So to me, actually, it was the benefit of studying in a city where there was a lot of international work. So a lot of internship, a lot of really cool institutes that allowed me to do a lot on the side of studying. So actually, that's something that I would recommend for students who are really interested in actually working during studies, is to consider also the location of your university. I didn't realize how important it was until having friends from Leiden, which is like kind of a university small city or town, and then I live in The Hague, which is more of like a working city, and I just realized I had a lot more opportunities to work and do stuff on the side of studying in the more of the professional world. So I thought that's really interesting. I guess also like I already mentioned, liberal arts is really important to me, so that quite like strictly defined where I was applying. And then of course, like the academic program, I got into, like, I wanted to do an honors college, so I wanted a little bit more rigorous studies in the Central Europe. So that was also a really important aspect of it. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Sara. How about for you, Rosanna? I think as far as I know about U.S. colleges, there can be massive differences between universities, and sometimes discerning them is a bit of an opaque and not transparent process. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, it is. And then I ended up applying to Harvard, Columbia, and Yale. And spoiler alert, I only got into Harvard. I got rejected by the other two. So what I decided was, well, the financial aid is a big part because, well, the financial aid again differs a lot between colleges. I would say Ivy League is the best for money because obviously they have the prestige, they're rich, so they can afford it. But it also depends. Like, I think Harvard and Yale are one of the few. Columbia also, like, they took it into consideration when they look at your application if you're international and apply for funding. So that's also a thing that you need to check. But obviously, it's for every person, it's like different. You shouldn't apply to Harvard just because it's Harvard, but if they have offered something you want from there and stuff. So yeah, they offer they vary a lot, unfortunately. So you need to like do your own research about what you want from your college experience. But what I decided was, yeah, again, the financial aid. And then I had visited Columbia, so it seemed nice. And then just kind of research what they have and stuff. It was actually I went a lot just by intuition because I wasn't really thinking I would get in. So I put more effort into the research in other countries like UK and Ireland because I thought I would end up there. I was just like, Harvard was a bit of a reach for me. So I just thought like, yeah, it seems very nice and the campus seems nice and they have a good program. I found things that on the website that would interest me and stuff. So yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Rosanna. And there's been some questions in the chat about getting scholarships from the US. And I'll just do a small insert that one needs to be kind of aware of this concept called need-blind admissions. Rosanna, could you please elaborate on what need-blind admissions for US colleges is?
Yes, sorry. I should have already, but I forgot, sorry.
So, no worries.
So need-blind means that when they look at your application, they're literally like blind to your need of scholarship or need of funding and money. So that's what Harvard and Yale offers from the schools I applied to. So Columbia was, that's the other term, need something, I forgot, but that they give you the need they give you the money you need, but only if they kind of like you enough that they kind of take it into consideration so if you need a lot of money and then they're like, then you have less chance to get in. But so Harvard and Yale, they don't care about they are not going to look at your financial need.
Yeah. So basically just to elaborate, when you apply to those need-blind colleges in the States, you basically have sort of, if I've understood correctly, you have two paths or in a kind of like two applications going in parallel. So you have the application into the university, and then you have the application for the financial aid. And these two things are completely separate. So like when they look at the application for university, they, like the people who do that, they don't know whether you applied for financial aid at all. And there are 5 universities in the States which do this for international students. So of course, you know, as you might have guessed, it's Harvard and Yale. And additionally, it's also Princeton, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and Amherst College, so a small liberal arts college in New England. Unfortunately, other universities take your need into account, such as, let's say, Stanford or University of Chicago or Columbia, NYU. But there's still has been a track record of Finns getting into those universities as well. But then perhaps one's achievements need to be a little bit more exceptional. So just to kind of to flag that up. So hopefully this answered the question on scholarships. So 5 universities I can.
Yeah, can I jump on that? Because obviously.
Please do.
So I also applied for my master's to US, 2 different universities, Johns Hopkins and Columbia. And what I found actually really interesting, and I had the insight of people who worked in those universities, is that you can actually reapply for the financial aid. So even if you have need-based, so Columbia and Johns Hopkins both have need-based application for financial aid. So it means that you can get in, but then you might not get as much aid as you wish you would get. So you're very likely not to be able to get the full tuition, but you can actually reapply. And so that was something that I wouldn't have had no clue that I can do until a professor told me about it, so that you get your first evaluation or how much they will give you aid, and you can actually ask them to get that higher up on the second round. A lot of, I feel like the Finns that I have known don't do that because they feel like that's the final statement. So I would just also keep that in mind, that even if they don't have need line, you can actually ask more money or tell I'm not going to be able to attend, you need to give me 10 grand more, and etc.
Thank you very much. And Rosanna, just to kind of elaborate, I think, there's like money is always a very sort of central thing when we talk about studying in the US. But during our last boot camp in September, I remember Kalle Heikkinen, the interviewer from Harvard, was like, Harvard is free. And it's cheaper than studying in Finland if you get a significant financial aid package. So I think that was the case, right?
Yeah, for me at least, because well, again, it's different for everyone. Depends on your family income and stuff like that. But for me, it was definitely that I'm basically there for free. I pay minimal amount of money there, and it's not just for tuition. But I can say that basically I get to live in Boston for free for 3 years now, because I'm now here in Finland. But actually, then they paid me like $5,000 per semester for my living costs here, because I would have been totally catered for there. So yeah, it's money-wise, it's a very good investment to go to Harvard, because because if I went to Finland, I would have to probably move on my own, away from my family, and pay my rent and pay my food and stuff. And then at Harvard, I do all that for free.
Yeah, that's what it is. The nominal price tag can be high, but then the actual price tag can actually be very different to that. I think we need to sort of accelerate a little bit. And Tuukka, can you please answer the same question? So on picking universities, and then let's run one more question on sort of where people got in and where people didn't get in and how to deal with the rejection. Let's run that question. I think that's important. And then we're going to open the floor for Q&A, or kind of like properly dive into the questions in the chat. So let's be very quick.
So I think so like I think the main way that you can, I think for me, going abroad, I also wanted to make sure that my investment is worth it. Obviously, in the UK, you don't get as much kind of this financial aid, but you can still apply for it. So for me, it was much more of a monetary investment. I had to think about, okay, is this going to pay off in the end if I get a good job out of this? So I looked at kind of university rankings. I wanted to aim as high as possible in that regard. So especially for the degree that you're applying to, so you want to obviously kind of look at kind of ranking. Say for me, mathematics, where I ended up at Warwick, is quite high in the UK, in the top 4. So that kind of played into how I chose my studies. Also, another consideration is obviously back then, for example, Scotland was free. Then did I want to study in London, or did I want to study in a campus university? So these kind of things are kind of the main things that you should look at when you're looking at going to the UK.
All right, fantastic. And yeah, decision time. Where did people get in and where did people get rejected? I can say that I am a double Edinburgh and St. Andrews reject. So yeah, sometimes these things like are a bit wild, but ended up getting into Cambridge. Sara, how was it like for you?
Well, for my bachelor's, I didn't get rejected anywhere, but I think I didn't also reach out for the highest of the schools. So I went to Netherlands, which I think the percentage of getting is not that as bad as in UK and US. But for my master's, I applied to Stanford, Johns Hopkins, and Columbia. And I got into Johns Hopkins and Columbia. For Stanford, I didn't get, which was, I think, very largely due to the fact that I totally sucked at doing GRE. So to me, the score was definitely, I think, the main point, because Johns Hopkins and Columbia didn't require it. I think never required it, or it can be elective. So I got my way through in that way. And I would just say maybe for like the rejection of like how to deal with it, like, of course it doesn't feel nice, but it doesn't necessarily, I don't think you should see it as like your value as a human is diminished if you don't get into Harvard or Stanford. I think sometimes it really is about luck. Sometimes it's just that you fit the right profile. They wanted someone from the Nordics and you suddenly were the person from the Nordics. Of course, like it's not perfectly meritocratic, but obviously like it has a place. So do put effort into the application, do write fantastic essays, and do well in school. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't like totally, I don't know, hit yourself if you don't get into the dream school. And that's why it's super important to also apply to other schools and maybe in a lower level, just to have backup options too.
Okay, Rosanna, a blitz answer.
Sorry, I was typing in the chat. I missed.
Yeah, it was getting in and getting rejected, etc. Well, you already mentioned that do you want to maybe elaborate on your British or other application efforts and how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so again, yeah, I got rejected by Yale and Columbia. Also, when I applied to the UK, I got rejected by Oxford and something else, which was like not even those kind of top unis, because I applied to study law and then I had to do some tests and I totally did not do well on that test, and that's why some university of some random place rejected me because my score was not high enough. But that was okay. I got into Warwick actually. I thought I would go there. It was like 90% sure. I had even contacted the dance studio in Birmingham, like, can I please come to your place, like the best Irish dance school in the world or something. So that's kind of sad that I got to Harvard, so now I don't get to go to the best Irish dance school in the world. But yes, so yeah, I'm not sure what's saying here, but that's what happened.
So Harvard is not best at everything.
Exactly.
Not the best Irish dance studio. All right.
I would have thought the best dance studios in Ireland, but Midlands is the case. Okay, so for me,
Midlands is the best Irish dance. Yeah.
Otherwise not the best, but anyway, for me, I applied to LSE, UCL, Edinburgh, Warwick, and Oxford, and all of these were for economics at the time, and I got into Warwick. So I got rejected from everywhere else. I think there is a key factor in that. I think my essay, although I did talk about kind of like how much I wrote about economics, I still focused a little bit too much on my mathematics aptitudes. So I should have probably taken a look at my personal statement back then and kind of written a maths application and applied with that. I probably would have had much more success, because I think eventually that is the kind of guiding passion in my life. But yeah. But yeah, I think dealing with rejection, I was quite sad at Oxford. I think that was like a very like a dream of me for a very long time, and everyone at my school kind of started referring me to as Mr. Oxford, because I had the gut to apply there, and no one in my school kind of like wanted to apply anywhere else. So obviously kind of that was a part of my identity for some reason. So that took a while to get rid of, but I'm very happy where I ended up. And eventually kind of it just goes away with time, I guess, like dealing with rejection. And it's also understanding that you're in a good situation regardless. Like, I think looking back at now what I've done, I have very few regrets. I don't think I could have done much better in my life, let's say, if I was at Oxford. So it's very hard to be regretful.
Words of wisdom. Okay. First of all, apologies for us overrunning the original panel session by 8 minutes. I can tell you that I will stay post 4. So if attendees do not have a hard stop, I will personally stay post 4 o'clock. So you'll be able to ask questions and potentially sort of even discuss with your cameras on if you wish to do so. But yeah, there's a ton of very, very interesting questions, and I can already say that we'll probably not have enough time to go through all of them. But what we have done is that we have collected all the questions from the chat into a document, which we will then we will answer every single question and send it out to all of you. So if your question is not picked, do not worry. You will get an answer. I think Rosanna, there's a person asking about sports scholarships. Do you want to give a very, very brief answer on U.S. sports scholarships? Because of course not that many people would be applying to them, but what do you know about them? Like a 30-second answer.
Yeah, all I know about that there's some athlete recruiting. You can watch the nice new Netflix documentary on the admission scandal, where some millionaires paid a lot of money to fake that they're kids are some athletes to get into those schools. It's not really like that, I guess, all the time, but there has been stuff like that. So yeah, all I know that they do recruit athletes like for their team. So that's how they get in to so they go to the sports team, but depends like if the school has that sport you are doing, whoever asked that. So yeah, I think Googling about the recruiting athlete is the best way to do it. But for me, the scholarship you apply for Harvard is automatic. So if you get in, you get the money. You don't need to be cool to get the scholarship. So I do not have any outside scholarship or anything. So that's very difficult to answer. But all I know about the athlete recruit. But yeah, that's it. Sorry.
I think that was very interesting answer regardless. There are a few questions that I can answer with a single word. How much does Kela give to Finns studying outside of Europe? Unfortunately, they give exactly the same amount, if not even, they give you less than in Finland, because in Finland you get the opintoraha and then you get asumistuki, but then abroad you get opintoraha and then asumislisä. So basically sort of the model that was in place before the financial aid reform.
You
So
also get the loan though.
You get
the loan is higher if you're abroad.
Yeah, to everybody I can say that the loan is the Finnish student loan is the best loan in the universe. So take it, and if you graduate on time, you get 40% written off. So 40% of that is free money.
But can I on the same theme, with regards to like questions about the UK and funding, for me, I kind of my parents haven't kind of paid at all, so it's basically all been me. So basically, I guess you get around 4,400 euros in total, or something like this, from Kela in terms of the kind of opintotuki plus opintoraha, or 4K, and then with regards to the opintolaina, which is 7,200 for me at least, because I study 9 months in a year. Adding those up, I have enough to cover kind of the tuition fees and a little bit of my living expenses. And for the living expenses, just working during holiday time is enough to cover it. So I think it is an investment, but also I think if you're studying in the UK, a lot of employers will look at you positively. So if you're like applying to internships in Finland, you might get, so I've gotten into places where most of the other kind of hires are like third year students, for example, when I was a first year. So you definitely get like, nicer looks, as I'd say. So I think in terms of funding it's completely possible. I think with Brexit it is going to be well, the tuition fees are going to be higher, so it might not apply. But again, looking at the scholarships, and then we'll see what happens with Scotland. So it might still be possible.
Thanks for mentioning Brexit. And there's been a few questions in the chat about Brexit. And I think the most efficient way for us to deal with them is that I will write a comprehensive answer to that in our follow-up email. And then there will also be a list of all possible post-Brexit scholarships that people can apply for, of which we happen to have knowledge. And one of the things that we do is that we scrape the interwebs constantly for all that kind of information. So to people who asked Brexit questions, we will be passing on them now, but you will be getting an answer during the coming days when I will be sending you a recap, a very detailed answer at that. I think there's a very, very relevant question. It's primarily addressed to Rosanna, but I think it's very relevant for both Tuukka and Sara. Well, especially Tuukka, as Tuukka studied in Finland before going to the UK. So how did you sort of deal with the kind of, studying, deal with the psychological stress that is caused by studying in an elite environment after you've just studied at an ordinary Finnish high school? So Rosanna, do you want to go first, and Tuukka could go next, and of course Sara, if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, so well, for me, I think I typed something in the chat that it's like the competition, it's not, at least I haven't really felt it, because people are very different. Like I said, that the student body is so diverse, and there's people from different backgrounds. So a lot of people also come from like worse high schools from the US. So also it's not that everybody is from like prep school wearing suits there on the first day or anything. Well, also my experience is now only the remote study. So I don't know how it will be on campus, but at least what I now can say that it's not that starting there, I realized that, and they have a lot of like pre-orientation. So it's not just like you go there and you start and you need to be good. So everybody's kind of in the same boat in the sense that everybody first year coming from different environment. So, and yeah, I what I did, I just would tell all my classmates, like usually the first class, we would just always say like who we are and where we come from. So I would be like, yeah, I come from Finland, I'm a first year. So studying abroad for the first time. So this is very, very nerve-wracking for me. And all the professors and teaching fellows have their office hours. I would go there and tell them that, yeah, I'm from Finland and English is not my first language and stuff. So just being vocal about your stress helps a lot already. You don't have to just be quiet and do, because it's a very also, it's a like fostering environment that all the people are very interested in you. So you don't just like, maybe in Finland, it's typical, like you go to the class, you do homework, you go home, you come back to the school next day. But here it's very like, people want to be friends with you and everything. So I stress very easily, but this has not been a thing that I've stressed about. So I hope that tells something.
All right, how about for you, Tuukka and Sara? And let's do this. Can you please answer this question, and then I'm going to promote the boot camp, and then we can end. But as I said, I will stay on. So until and I will be the last man standing.
Okay. Not if I'm concerned. I guess I can stay as well. So
right.
Thing is, so for me, I think one thing with the UK is that it's a little bit more intense than studying in Finland. I think if you come from, I'd say if you study in IB, I think you're very well prepared for the intensity of studying in a university in the UK. I think if you're coming from Finland,
and please remind us, did you do IB?
I did not. I did Finnish. Okay, in Oulu, I did the national, etc. So, like considering, for example, my mathematics education, there was a little bit of a gap that I had to cross. So there were things that they assumed that I knew that I didn't know, even though I did the long maths. But there was also things that I knew much better. So like proofs. I think Finnish maths education is very kind of it helps you think about things in a abstract way, which I think the UK, they do very rote-based learning and memorizing things, and that's not okay anyway. But Finnish education system has its benefits, and that does prepare you well. In terms of actually all of these extracurriculars, doing stuff outside your school, I think a lot of people in the UK, at least in my university, they're very eager to participate in extracurriculars. So I think that's a mindset that you need to get into. So like, I mean, people, it's not stressful necessarily, but a lot of people do participate in many different things and seem to have infinite amount of time. And you might get a little bit stressed about that, but it's actually also a little bit motivating for me, at least. Like I have a lot of friends who do very exciting things, and that kind of rubs on me as well. And I'm much more eager to try to kind of make the maximum out of kind of my daily life. I think with COVID, it's been a little bit of a bummer in that sense that I don't kind of meet those kind of inspirational people every day, but and that's affected, I guess, my productivity as well. But yeah, otherwise, I think Finnish system doesn't really put you in a disadvantaged position. It just gives you benefits in some areas and disadvantages in others. But I think these kind of level out.
Alrighty, some cancel each other out. How about Sara? Do you have anything to add? I know you studied in high school in Italy, so perhaps like your itinerary was a bit different. But how did you sort of navigate that mental pressure?
I feel like, of course, it's a pressure. You're coming from, obviously, I had learned everything in Finnish before high school, so of course it's changed. And I think one thing, like what I thought was really important part of being abroad as a foreigner, is that you really learn humility and the ability, like if you have been the best of school, like the classic A, like straight A student, and then you go to abroad and suddenly you're not able to express yourself as good as you have back in Finland. I think it's also like a humbling lesson. So I think you should see it as a potential challenge, but also as something exciting and a chance for you to grow as a person. I definitely felt that, and obviously, like after IB, it was easier to go to university abroad, but still, there's days when you're not able to say everything the perfect way, and that's fine. And I think it's to your advantage later on in life. So maybe it is a challenge, but I think overall, it's going to make you more prepared. I have to go, unfortunately, because my family's waiting for me at the Easter dinner table, and they will be very mad if I'm late. But it's been really wonderful talking to you all, and I'm happy to answer questions, and you'll have to connect us if you have any specific questions about Netherlands, also about the US.
Yes, thank you so much. Everyone has my email here, so please send me a line and I will connect you with Sara when it comes to questions. Sara, thank you so much. Have a great Easter.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Sarah.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay.
Bootcamp.
We can perhaps end the session or kind of end the formal portion of the session. So whoever has a hard stop at this stage can leave. We will continue rambling. No, the boot camp.
Yes. Okay, come on.
The boot camp.
One more thing before you leave, okay?
Yes. Okay. Share screen. Then. Can you see it? Ta-da! Tuukka, can you give me a confirmation?
Yes, I can see this. Yes. Okay.
Okay. So this is our program that we had for the bootcamp last year in 2020, and we will be doing the same event this year as well with the same sponsors. So Hannes Snellman is one of the biggest law firms in the Nordics, and BCG is one of the biggest consulting firms in the world. And the participation will be, of course, free for everybody, as you know, whatever else that we do. And what is very nice as well is that we've gotten a sizable grant from these two actors, which will allow us to pay everyone's transportation and accommodation costs who will be coming. So we have 30 to 35 slots available. So if in the case if there's going to be more applications for slots than there's places, we will need to do some kind of decisions on who might benefit from the program the most. I saw that there was some questions in the chat about whether there's going to be any post-grad orientation to the bootcamp. Unfortunately not. It's going to be exclusively focused on undergrad applications. But if one can make a convincing case that they will still benefit from the program, we're open to sort of to let postgrad people in as well. But that is just something that one has to be aware of. And of course, like for example, I've applied for postgrad programs myself as I graduated from Cambridge in 2020. So I just wanted to give you some hype about the program. Of course, this is last year's program, but it gives you some sort of an idea of what we will be doing. So we had a presentation on future-proof skills from Valtteri Tulkki from BCG. So if you're kind of interested in what do you actually need to learn in order to have a cool job in 20, 30 years down the line. That was a great talk. We had Anne-Maria Salmela, a student at NYU Abu Dhabi, so New York University Abu Dhabi, telling about how to choose a university. And what is really interesting about NYU Abu Dhabi is that they are extremely generous on financial aid. So everyone who gets in studies for free. So a fun fact.
More than free, I believe.
Sorry?
Potentially. I think more than free, potentially. I think they also pay for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. They even pay you to study there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, many university subjects are very different from whatever high school subject that you do. So we had a presentation by Ella Okko of Oxford and Matthias Vanhanen of Cambridge, how to decide how to apply for a degree that, doesn't have high school equivalence. So Ella does PPE, Philosophy, Politics, and Economics at Oxford, and Matthias Vanhanen does ASNAC, so Anglo-Saxon, Norse, and Celtic at Cambridge. So those degrees exist as well. And we also had Kalle Heikkinen, who's the Finnish interviewer. If you apply to Harvard, this fella is going to interview you, and I can say that he is actually much less intimidating than he looks. Rosanna is still here. How is it like to be interviewed by Kalle?
For me, it was horrible. I thought after the I was like, oh my, that was so bad. But then I read his the report he wrote, and then I was like, oh, he didn't hate me. I thought he did, but he didn't. So even if it's if the interview, but also I talked to one applicant who applied this season, and he said like, yeah, it was fine, it was so nice. So people have different experiences.
Yeah, and we'll be aiming to have Kalle in again. And what else? Well, we had a bunch of very interesting students on, talking about their studies. Alex had studied at LSE in Cambridge. Mayu had studied at LSE. We also had mock SATs and mock interviews for Oxbridge. We had Fritz and Melis present on extracurriculars. And we had Rosanna on Harvard. And also Gabby Good. So Gabby Good from the admissions office at Harvard present. So this is really a unique opportunity to ask questions on the application process from the people who will actually eventually read your application. This is like, this has never, just of course this is a bit self-promotion, but something like this has never ever happened in Finland before this. So
Cool.
PA.
I can also say what you kind of missed is also we had those kind of we had multiple people from say Oxford and Cambridge, and also US colleges as well, who were doing these kind of mock interviews. So if you're stressed about how to actually answer your questions well, or what kind of a process you'll be subjected to when you eventually get into interview, we had a good well-experienced people giving you a taste of that as well. And also, regarding your personal statements, for example, we had kind of these on the off times that we had. We talked about how to write these personal statements, and we definitely kind of read your drafts at that point. Also, a addition, if you apply to the program and get in, it's a program, so it's not only the boot camp. We also have like a pre-boot camp program where we talk about the practicalities of applying to these colleges, and kind of talking about how to write your draft, and a little bit of the kind of same theme, what it's like to study. So even if you don't not even if you don't go to the bootcamp, but if you go to the bootcamp, it's not going to only be a 2-day event. There's going to be more before, and obviously support afterwards. And we're going to try to also accommodate people who don't eventually get into the bootcamp, but want to know this information to somehow get similar amounts of information in terms of, say, recordings or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and Mikaela asked, does the bootcamp give you the opportunity to get contacts to different universities, colleges, or just preparing and helping you with the application? I think it's both. So it's you get, in a sense, like we are aiming for 3 things with the bootcamp. So it's inspiration, and for inspirational speakers, I can already drop the name that we will have Alexander Stubb talking. So of course he studied at LSE, and perhaps is the most international Finn of all time in one way or another, or at least one of them. So it's inspiration, it's advice, and it's practice. So on advice, we will be having students telling you about different aspects of studying abroad and applying abroad. And then there's going to be practice. So you will be doing those mock interviews, those mock tests. And then of course, as we will be having those people from those universities, from the admissions offices come in, like for example, Gabby Good from Harvard. We also had a person from Cambridge, Emily Tomlinson from Cambridge, come in. Of course, the contacts will be there. They will be sharing their emails. They will be sharing their contacts. So you'll be free to contact them afterwards. And usually people are extremely happy when students send them messages with questions. So those are contacts as well. And what else? Was there anything else on the bootcamp? And yeah, and one more thing, our sponsors had fantastic food, absolutely fantastic food. Yeah. So you're not going to pay a penny for any meals during the bootcamp, and it was the food was great. It might seem as an irrelevant point, but it's not when you're there for 2 days and thinking about universities. How accurate is the bootcamp for first-year students at Lukio? Everyone at high school can apply for the bootcamp, so we will not be discriminating against like people in earlier years. Of course, it will be possible to that, some of the information will change from, September 2021 to when you will eventually apply, let's say in 2023. So of course, that's a caveat to keep in mind. But yeah, we're not expecting that, the process will be radically different in 2 years in any of those places. So it will still be useful. And yeah, pre-IB students, feel free to apply.
Yeah, but we expect obviously want to host this like next year as well, hopefully. So
yeah. So
if you feel like you want to, I guess, think about these things for a while, we can get you the resources or get you on the mentorship program eventually. But if you kind of feel like you want to apply for the next year's one or wait, that's also a possibility. But yeah. We're not
Rosanna
expecting...
is going to be there at least via Zoom, hopefully via Zoom, because that means that you will be in Boston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though we would love to have you live, but it's better for you to be in Boston after such a long time.
Yes.
Okay, this will be the end of shameless self-promotion, though. It's not really shameless. This is a great thing, so I don't feel any shame promoting it. I will be hanging out here. Our speakers, Tuukka, Rosanna, unless you feel that you really want to stay, you can stay or you can go. I will be staying, let's say, for the next 10 to 15 minutes, answering questions. So yeah, and also if anyone is super brave, they can even turn on their camera and ask a question if they so wish. Please keep in mind that the session is being recorded. So yeah. Okay. Questions. There's a ton. How can one afford tuition in a country when it's not free? Like, can you get enough money from working Kela, etc.? I think we addressed that. It is really country specific, but let's recapitulate because people, I think, have a lot of questions on finances. Let's just re-answer the question because it's a really stressful question. I can say that for the UK, it's really university specific as well. Some universities are wealthier than others, and wealthier universities tend to have more money to give scholarships. For example, I got a pretty big need-based scholarship from Cambridge, and that allowed me to not work. I mean, I worked during the summers, but not work during the school year. And when I combined that with opintotuki, I was able to pay for everything. But we will be. This is an extremely complex question, so we will be compiling a data bank on this, which you can refer to in the future. Hopefully, that answered the question, at least on my part. Of course, Tuukka and Rosanna, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I think this. Don't have much.
I guess that was from the UK. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was there some US things that we missed?
Was it an open question or a question to me?
Yeah. Was there some US finance things that we missed?
I guess, again, in the US especially, because I think, well, when I applied to the UK, the fee for the tuition fee is the same, like the 10 grand or something, £7,000 or something. It's the same, but then I guess, well, in the US it varies more. So I know that a lot of people then apply to a lot of colleges, see where they get in, and then see what the financial aid package is, and then choose where they get the best funding. I know a lot of people do that, and unfortunately it's about our own research, but the need blind thing. So I guess you can apply to both more than the 5 colleges that were mentioned, but then they give different funding, and they probably don't fund the room and board, the food, and the campus living. So it's unfortunately the 5 are a good one for that if you get in, you get what you need, but then others are more,
Sorry, I was answering a question in the chat. When is the boot camp? It's going to be between the 3rd and the 4th of September. So it's the date is in the type form as well. So there's still plenty of time to apply, but be quick because there's been quite significant demand for the spots. So it's we don't know yet when we will be closing the applications, but it's always better to be early than to be late.
Yeah.
And
also, I think additionally, even if you don't get into the bootcamp, the Project Access has like a more international kind of mentorship program, which has more spots. So that's also something that you can apply for, I guess. But I'm not sure how much of our bootcamp attendees kind of participate in that as well. But
and yes, there's
what's the
question,
relationship?
Where can I apply for the bootcamp? I think I should. Is it possible to pin a message? In the recap, which I will be sending you, there will be the application link. So, but I just reposted the link into the chat. So it's a slightly longer type form. Are there any other big important questions that I think we might have missed? Is it hard to get financial aid for university in the UK? I can say that unfortunately, yes. It really depends on the university, and there are big differences between universities. So we can elaborate on that later on. It's a complex question. Tuukka, did you have anything to add?
Not other than do we actually have the type form in English, or is that still under? So obviously, well, I mean, I'm not sure the questions aren't that hard to understand, even if you speak poor Finnish. But just to say that you don't need to speak Finnish to attend the bootcamp, I guess is.
No. Yes, yeah. Apologies. The type form is in Finnish, but maybe we can do an additional one in English.
Yeah.
Rosanna, applying to study in the US, how early do you need to start the application? Like when you're a baby?
Sorry?
When you're a baby?
No, I mean, I guess it's good to, if you know you want to study in the US, I guess it's good to just have in the back of your head do the high school stuff, and then you can do your best and probably add some extra work. Probably if I didn't know I would apply to the US, I would have been a bit lazier when I was studying for the matriculation exams and such. So I guess that gave me an extra boost to work hard. But then the actual application process, where I then would have to put in words all the work I have put into the previous years, for me, I can advise it start earlier than me, because for me it was a problem that I was applying to the UK and Ireland and everything. So I first did the UK, and then the UK deadline was like October, and then the deadline I think in January 1st for Harvard and all the other schools in the US. So then I had like 2 months, which was, my schedule was a bit tight because I had to take the SATs and SAT subject test and write the essay. So I would say 2 months was pretty tight, but I managed. So maybe it doesn't have to be years, but maybe I would have started August or September, maybe. And
yeah. So I think probably the timing of the bootcamp is actually quite good for that. Yeah. So in September, if you prepare a bit for that, and then you hit the ground running after the bootcamp, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I personally started my personal statement in like the summer before, so October, but I think I finished it kind of like a couple days before the deadline. So I probably would have like maybe written a few more drafts, especially because I had a mentor from Project Access, and then kind of we went back and forth with the personal statement. It was kind of annoying to, I gave him a draft like a couple of days before the deadline, and that's always not nice to the mentor. So yeah, but I also know people like Ella, who was in the bootcamp last year as a speaker. I think she talked about how she did the process in like 2 days, and I think I've read
not recommended.
No, not recommended, but her personal statement was really great, and it got her into Oxford. So I mean, I'll give it, let's give it what it's worth. It's possible to also condense it. It does depend on you, and always it's better to start early. But that's the case with most things, and we students are master procrastinators. So I mean, it's always hard to actually follow that advice.
Okay, I think there's like so many questions that I think even if we've been staying here, where we're gonna stay here for the entire night. So let's wrap up soon-ish, and also the recording needs to be of a reasonable length. Can I apply for the bootcamp even though I'm graduating from high school this spring? Yes, or is it just for students currently in high school? No. So yeah, that is answered. Rosanna, to you, is it true that universities in the US don't take in consideration your matriculation exams when it comes to getting in?
I think
That's
they do.
tricky.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, what I probably said, I should elaborate on that they kind of everything. So, but then depends if they tell a lot, because I think, at least for me, they showed the best my academic record. They showed it better than the normal, the bad or what's that? The
number grades.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, here it's not really a thing, so I don't even, because you have to send like everything there. So I would say they do take it into account, but simply I think they do, because you have to send it there. But like if they're super bad, it's not gonna be a good thing. But then it's not like you're not gonna get in solely based on that. I think they care more about the SAT, but even if that's like on the poorer side, it doesn't matter. So they kind of take into account everything, but not meaning that everything needs to be perfect, but kind of like creating a picture of you, like, okay, this academic records were good, why they were good, or they were not good, why they were not good, like if you had something else going in your life. So it's not, you just don't send your record and be like, do they consider or do they? So it depends on the person, and kind of they create a bigger picture of you based on everything you send there.
Fantastic. Krista, for postgrad applications, we don't really have a mentor pool for postgrad applications, but as we focus on undergrads. But you can shoot me a line on postgrad applications and participating in the bootcamp, and we will work things out. For example, I haven't done postgrad yet, but I've applied to postgrad degrees after my graduation. So I think I can give you a couple of cents on that. Of course, in history, but yeah, the postgrad application is pretty different from undergrad, and it's not standardized. So it varies greatly from university to university. So yeah, please shoot me a line at, I think you probably have my email, but just in case, if other people want to have it as well. So projectaccess.org. There you go.
To say to Paulina, they do take into, I think, exam results into in consideration. I mean, obviously it depends. If you're doing the IB and you're taking like a few extra, I'm not sure about that, but if you're doing like purely matriculation exams, that's what they care about. They do ask for your päätötodistus, the number grades, but I'm not sure how much weight they give into it. Also, one consideration is that with the UK, they have the minimum grade requirement and I guess a recommended grade requirement. And after that, I don't really think that the higher the grade, the better you are. It's more about your personal statement. So as long as you kind of make the threshold of the recommended grades, you should be fine. So you shouldn't stress too much about that. But then you need to focus on actually writing a great convincing essay.
I suck at math. Is it a big part of the SATs? Can I still succeed? Rosanna, the stage is yours.
I suck at math too. So so I think for the normal SAT, it's half of, like, it's one half is math and one half is reading and writing. Basically, so it is kind of big, but if you don't make math your whole personality, in the sense that if you are good at something else, your math score doesn't matter. Like, my math was not good. I was like average on the test, so it doesn't matter if you can show your skills in other areas of your life.
Of course, we have a person for math is their whole personality.
Yes, me. But I mean, I want to add to that. Like, I think also what I've looked at the SATs. I mean, like, it's always relative. What does suck mean? But I also think that it's not like university level math. So it's something that you can also practice for, right? It's not like it is not a function of your, let's say, like, intelligence, how well you do in that part. It's a lot about how much you've prepared, right? So I mean, I think it's also realistic to become better within a a decent amount of time.
SAT or ACT, Rosanna?
Yeah, I was about to write that now, but yeah. So it shouldn't matter. All I've heard basically on the internet, and also I think SAT is more. I have no idea. I'm just like talking what comes to my mind. I think my intuition says that SAT is more kind of available in Finland because, you take it. I think I went to the international school or something. They held the SAT there at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I feel like I have never heard that they give ACTs in Finland. Probably they do, but I have never heard of that before. So, but yeah, all I can say is that I've heard from the internet some kind of conversation threads that ACT is more math heavy. So if you are better at math and kind of suck at reading, or that's not your strength, then you might want to consider ACT. And if you suck at math, so to say, you might want to take SAT. I hope I now said, yeah. So ACT is probably more math heavy, what I know from the internet, but don't count on me on this. But it should not matter. Take whatever you feel like you want.
Yeah, and I've heard of people taking both just in case, and then like seeing what is the relatively better score. So you can do some tactic.
Yeah, if you have time, then feel free to do that. I didn't have time. I just take SATs. I thought it's easy and just again from the comment thread that SAT. Yeah. So it's
the SAT math. I think that the SAT math question. Now that we're on that topic, is it more close to lyhyt or pitkä? Not sure. I haven't done it, so can you, Rosanna?
I think So I can tell about my background. I took all the pitkän matikan courses, but then I English is now very heavy. I took the matriculation exam in the lyhyt. So then I went to take it, and I think it's you don't have to have any pitkä math. Because I sucked at that, and I was like okay there. So you don't have to have any advanced math in order to do okay on the SAT.
Yeah, I think I think I'm not certain, but I think the one girl from who was a participant in our bootcamp as a mentor, Kia. I'm not sure what her last name was, but I think she had short math as well.
She's a Brown.
Yeah, she's a Brown, and I think she had short math and did the SAT. I'm not sure. Well, it was decent enough to get there. So again, I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like a very key thing to keep in mind, I think, which applies to basically all of these application processes, is that you have like several of these components, and it doesn't make sense to obsess over any single one of them and think, okay, I need to be perfect in this one thing in order to get in. It's more just, how all of them play together. I mean, of course, I do understand that it's like a very abstract thing, and it's much easier to kind of fall into this trap that, okay, I need to get this numerical score, or I need to get these and these grades, but try to think of this, holistically, so to speak.
Juha, there was also a question about the Cambridge admission process. So if you could maybe our last question.
Yes, I was just wondering whether there's anything else, because Cambridge is quite specific. So yes.
But
let's
it's also
do this.
similar to Oxbridge as well, right?
Yeah. I'll answer the Cambridge question, and then we're going to wrap up. So if one is not interested in Oxbridge, you could tune out, and we will be in touch with you. So thanks a million for joining. This was a great session. Okay, Oxbridge people. The process is a bit different compared to other UK universities because you need to apply early. So the deadline is different. You'll need to apply in mid-October, so 15th of October. And what is interesting is that you cannot apply to both. You need to apply to either Cambridge or to Oxford. And basically, you send in roughly the same things. You send in your personal statement, you send in your recommendations, you send in your grades, your matriculation exam / IB grades. And at least in Cambridge, they made you fill an extra application form, and I think at Oxford as well. Rosanna, do you remember? There was like an extra, like an Oxford specific form, was it?
Sorry, I was tuned out a little bit.
I don't. Well, I mean, to answer, I think there's a supplementary question for Cambridge where you explain why you want to go to Cambridge, but I don't think that's the same for Oxford actually. At least when I applied. So
yeah, I can't remember. I can't recall any extra. Yeah, I don't think there was.
And anyway,
apart from I guess like choosing what college you want to go into or whether you submit like an open.
So basically, what really makes Oxbridge a bit different from, or very different from all other UK universities, is that it's a collegiate university, and the thing is that the university is composed of colleges, which is kind of like the houses in Harry Potter, the houses of Hogwarts in Harry Potter. And you don't need to stress too much about which college you get into, but you'll just need to pick a college or let an algorithm or sort of like some sort of an AI thingy, statistical thingy choose it for you. Okay, then you submit your application, and then you'll need to do an admissions test in your respective subject. And this is sort of the first stage of filtration of applications. So if one's performance on the test is below a certain threshold, one will not be invited to the interview. But if you clear that threshold, you will be invited to the interview, which will usually be held at the beginning of December around Independence Day in Finland. So from the 1st of December to roughly the 15th of December. And in pre-COVID times, one had to travel for the interview, which is usually a great experience because you get to live in at an Oxbridge college. And the interview experience is usually quite sort of, it's quite interesting in a sense that what they want to see is they want to see how you think. So usually or at least that is the sort of the public rhetoric related to the process. So they might go through your personal statement, they might go through some sort of, they might set you a text to read, et cetera. And it's usually not getting the right answers. It's just kind of displaying that you can think rigorously under pressure. And for science applicants, it would be solving, a problem sheet with your interviewers. For humanities, as for me, for example, for history, it was discussing a text with the interviewer. So I had 2 interviews. In one of them, I discussed a text that was sort of presented to me 2 hours before the interview. And that was it. And then in the second one, we discussed my personal statement, or like the stuff that I had written in my personal statement. And it's also really key, like if you apply to Oxbridge, don't bullshit your personal statement. So it's, if you write something outlandish, they will probably grill you on that. So be careful to make sure that whatever you write in your personal statement, you will be able to discuss under pressure without sort of, like feeling uncomfortable.
And I think if I can add in terms of the personal statement, right? Like one of the reasons why it kind of needs to be a little bit academic focused. If you're talking about Oxford, for example, they're kind of in their interview, what they're gauging is this someone we would like to teach? Is this someone who will ask tough questions from us, who will benefit from the type of education that we have, which is geared around kind of this discussion with your tutors, right? So, one of the reasons why the UK personal statement is more about your academic interest, how you've explored the subject that you're applying for around not only in school but outside school, showing your passion and the fact that you will not drop out of your degree because you can't change it, etc. Right? That's why it needs to be like this academically focused personal statement, and then that also gives material for your interviewers to kind of talk about. If you mention books, be sure to read them and be able to discuss them, because they will drill you on them, even if you kind of put some outlandish Finnish book. I'm sure they couldn't have read that Björn Waru's book if I got into interview, but they probably would have come up with like, tell me the main point of it or something like this. So do read them.
Yeah, but during the boot camp, we will have mock interview sessions for Oxbridge, so that will be an opportunity for you guys to get practice on that front, and then the decisions come out around the beginning of January. So for those who made it to the interview, okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
This was a marathon.
Thank you for fantastic questions. I'm really looking forward to your mentorship applications and for your bootcamp applications. And I will be sending you a recap during the coming days. And in there, Thanks, Tuukka. In there, I will also I will include the key points from the Q&A and all the relevant links and all the relevant emails. So what I'll do is that